The Florida Growth Policy and Community Act. Concurrency provision requires that water, solid waste treatment, and sewer facilities be in place before any development can begin. The Community Planning Act placed growth planning responsibilities primarily with the local communities to establish comprehensive plans. Planning goals are to save taxpayers money, provide for adequate services, provide for right-of-way and setbacks, protect against drainage and flooding, and reduce problems associated with landfills, prisons, etc. The composition is they're a diverse group and they're appointed, not elected. It's a voluntary position, they're unpaid. They are an advisory body to the elected officials of the city or the county. City planning commissions are often given final authority on the 3 S's: subdivision plat approval, site plan approval, and sign control. Zoning ordinances are local laws that implement the comprehensive plan. Local government exercises police power by regulating and controlling the use of land and structures within a designated land use district or zone. Each zone is assigned a specific land use classification, and no other land use controls affect property in a community to a greater degree than zoning ordinances. Residential regulates density and subcategorizes minimum lot sizes and the amount of units per acre. Commercial regulates intensity, the amount of traffic. A buffer zone is a strip of land that separates the different uses. Industrial regulates intensity of pollution and emollients. Then you have agricultural, special use, and those are government properties, parks, libraries, and etc. The statewide Florida Building Code has R values, wind loads, and the codes are enforced by local governments through building permits, building inspections, and certificates of occupancy. Health ordinances protect the public health and safety from inferior construction practices. Minimum standards for materials and quality of workmanship, sanitary equipment, electrical wiring, and fire prevention. Zoning Board of Adjustments. So your building codes are going to control construction and materials. Zoning ordinances are going to control the use. Health ordinance is going to control the maintenance and sanitation. And then you have for zoning, when people need something different than what the original zoning is, they can ask for a variance, a special exception, or a non-conforming use. A variance is permission to build or use to relieve a hardship that's not caused by the owner. Okay? Hardship can't be caused by the owner. Different from a special exception. A special exception is permission to build or use in apparent conflict with existing zoning. Okay, so you're driving through a residential area and suddenly you see a daycare center or an adult living center. They've got special exception to run that business there, that commercial business. And then non-conforming use, we're all familiar with that. Think of the word grandfathered in. It's permission to continue to use the property in spite of a newly enacted zoning ordinances. Because they were there first, they're grandfathered in, and there are some limitations and expectations. Any development that, because of the character, size, or location, will have a substantial effect on the health, safety, or welfare of its citizens of more than one county, they're going to be required to complete a development of regional impact. Plan unit developments, they have special zoning use. It's clustered homes. There's usually a higher density, large green spaces between the clusters. It's got mixed land use. You'll have multifamily housing, single-family residence, apartments, townhouses. Now, some will even have retail and office facilities, even hospitals. It's with planned open spaces. What this is a little city within a city. Okay? An environmental impact statement summarizes into a single document the long-term effect the proposed project will have on the surrounding environment. It provides local government agencies and the public with important information regarding environmental impact that can be expected from the proposed development. The National Flood Insurance Program makes insurance available to owners, tenants, and businesses if the community participates. It's administered by FEMA, and the insurance is for properties located in special flood hazard areas. And notice that acronym, SFHA. CERCLA, Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act. This is for pollution, okay, in the land and stuff like that. PRP, they want you to know that that stands for potentially responsible persons. What happens is it makes the liability for the cleanup cost go towards everybody. It can be strict, which means they can just pick one person. They can be joint. They can pick a couple people or several people. And it can be retroactive all the way back to the person who drove the pollutive whatevers to that business. Now, for someone purchasing a property that may possibly be polluted, the way that they can not have to be responsible for cleanup costs if later it's found that it was polluted is to invoke the innocent landowner immunity. Basically what that means is that the purchaser, the buyer, gets, and it's a company that comes out and does a phase 1 audit. They're certified to do a phase 1 audit, and they will certify whether this property has the potential of ever being a, polluted piece of property, so to speak. There are national priorities lists, and it's sometimes fun to look it up on the internet and see how close you are to it. Asbestos is a mineral fiber in common use until 1978 in a variety of building construction materials and in installation as a fire retardant. Remember, asbestos has to be removed by a certified remediation company. Radon is decaying uranium in the soil that produces radon gas, and it seeps into the homes and accumulates. Radon typically moves up through the ground to the air above into homes through cracks in the foundation, utility conduits, spaces around the plumbing, basement floors and walls, and crawl spaces. When it comes to lead-based paint, it's estimated that 75% of the nation's housing stock built before 1978, which is about 64 million dwellings, contains lead-based paint. And the vast majority of homes built before 1950 contain substantial amounts of lead-based paint. Mold reproduces by a means of tiny spores. The spores are invisible to the naked eye and float through the outdoor and indoor air. The underground water supply can be contaminated from leaking underground storage tanks, septic systems, storm drains, herbicides, and other sources. Contamination can threaten private wells and public water supplies.